Hello, I'm Dan, and I'm here to continue the complete vinyl collection series as it is here at the end of 2021. So, as I've said before, it's organized in reverse chronological order, newest records here, all the way back, and we are picking up today in 2010. So let's get into it. This is one by a band called Holy Hail, and I found this in a record store in a dollar bin. And I saw the cover and I thought, it kind of has the vibe of something aesthetically that I would be interested in. It reminded me of kind of 80s alternative indie rock bands of the time, just by looking at it. I had no idea, what it was going to be. But my recollection of listening to it is it's about that. It's alternative indie rock. I think it's from Brooklyn, and this is on Pseudoscience Records. I hadn't heard of that before. And what I assume is a joke, it says in the bottom of the credits, in memory of Perry Farrell, 1959 to 2010. Now, the Perry Farrell that I know, and you probably know, is the singer of Jane's Addiction, who was born in 1959, but did not die in 2010. So that's curious. But yeah, I picked it up for $1. I still have it, and it was an interesting find for sure. This is, I guess, the last full-length record from a band called Oceansides that I really, really like. Self-preserved while the bodies float up. 2010. This is a gatefold. Jagged. I believe this is 180 gram vinyl, and it is black. And the vinyl pressing is not superb, but it did come with the CD. So sonically, you're covered there. I bought it long after the fact. I mean, I enjoyed this record for years, but I never did get it on vinyl. And I knew from a friend that the vinyl pressing wasn't that great, but I took a chance on it anyway, knowing that the CD would come with it. So Oceansides is a great, kind of heavy, melodic, kind of has some progressive elements too. Kind of like a heavier Mogwai, I could say, I think. And I've really enjoyed them. All right, I already got to remind myself to be a little quicker with these if we're going to get through as much as I want to get through. I'd like to get through several cubes today, knowing that the year is rapidly approaching its end, and I'd like to have this whole series wrapped up by the end. So let's keep moving. Rogue Wave, Permalite from 2010. Bit of a departure from the indie rock sub pop era. This came out on Brushfire Records. It's a little more upbeat, a little more electronic elements. Still very, very catchy. Great songwriting. I love Rogue Wave. Mine's the Bear, Omni. This is just the black 180 gram pressing of this. Also from 2010. Also a bit of a departure from their previous work with the more electronic elements and stuff like that. That seems to be a common theme with indie bands that get bigger and bigger. A lot of people didn't like this vibe. I think it has some great songs on it. Dayglow Vista Road, I think, is one of my favorites of theirs entirely. Excuses, I like. I think it's a great record. I still enjoy listening to it. This is a special one to me. I love this band, Helen Stellar. This is their most recent full-length album. I think that they're working on some new stuff recently, but this is If the Stars Could Speak, They Would Have Your Voice, which is a very cool title, I think, and kind of sweet. And this came out in 2010, but was pressed on vinyl in 2013. It's a gold vinyl. Excellent shoegaze indie rock. Lovely vocals. Just spacey guitar vibes. I really enjoy this band, and I look forward to hearing more from them. First solo album by Jonesy of Sigaros. It's called Go. I enjoyed this album when it came out. I thought it was an excellent debut from him doing a bit more of his own thing outside of Sigaros, but still has that vibe that is attractive from that band. Yeah, love Jonesy. This was a VCLT some years ago from Stephanie, Twee Girl, from Canada. This band is called Solids. They are from Montreal, Quebec, kind of a post-hardcore alternative rock, and I I've enjoyed having this in my collection. Now, this says 2 guys with no bass that do a lot for 2 guys without a bass. That was a note from Stephanie. This, I'll probably link the video to the original showing I did of this. This was a bit of a novelty, well, definitely a novelty pressing from this label called In the Clouds. The album's called Dreams of Water, and it was actually filled with a blue liquid. There was definitely more of this liquid back then. I don't know if it's just coagulated more or if I've somehow lost some at some point, but it's in this PVC sleeve, and there's still some with the glitter in there, but it definitely looked different back then. But I've never kept the records in this jacket, and I have the blue and white swirl version of that. It's an excellent record that I've talked about quite a bit. They're just fantastic musicians, and I would definitely encourage you to check them out. They are now called Rare Futures, and we talked about that album earlier in this series. Deftones, Diamond Eyes, one of my favorites of theirs. This is on white vinyl. I think it's a good pressing of this record. They're first without Chi on bass, but they came back very strong with this record, and several of these songs are among my favorites of theirs. This is an EP by Jagged Jazzist. Let's see, what's it called? Banana Fleur Overhauled. It's got 5 tracks, some remixes, and this is on Ninja Tune. I'm sure I've already talked about Jagged Jazzist in this series, so I don't think I'll have to explain their sound. Again, Cave In. This is Anomalies Volume 1. I'm pretty sure I've only listened to this once. It's a 7-track collection of covers. Very plain sleeve. Came out in 2010, black vinyl. This is one of my favorites from my years of collecting, I think. Walter Schriefels is the vocalist and guitar player from Quicksand, Rival Schools, many bands, really. And this is a solo record that he did in 2010 that I really enjoy. I thought it was really well done. I thought his approach to songwriting in this way was fantastic. It just had great results. And I know I saw an Instagram post or something a couple years after this that he was demoing or writing for another one, which I've never seen anything about again. But I would love to hear another solo record from him. I really enjoy this. This is probably somewhat rare. Duncan Sheik, you may know from Barely Breathing, one of the most played radio songs of the 90s. But this is, to my recollection, the only Duncan Sheik album that's been pressed on vinyl at this point, which is Whisper House, a play that he did the music for. And he made a Duncan Sheik album out of the songs, which I do enjoy, and RCA put it on vinyl. There you go, that's in 2009. The last full-length album from a band called Isis. This is Wavering Radiant, the original black pressing. It's a great gatefold jacket. It's a Stoughton jacket with another version of the cover art, kind of the reverse in there. Really cool. And this is the original outer sleeve that it came in. You can see it kind of has its own kind of version of the OBI strip, but all around this side, which is kind of interesting. But I really enjoyed Isis as a band. Very heavy, but still some really great progressive metal elements. And I think this is probably their strongest album, and I really would have liked to see where they went after this, but they broke up within a couple of years after this came out. And this is One Armed Bandit from Jagged Jazzist, which that EP I just showed was from as well. Really great album. Kind of in the vein of Isis, this is Pelican, What We All Come to Need. This is probably my favorite Pelican record. And again, nice thick jacket. It's on clear vinyl. This is a great sounding record too. And I love the cover, the color of it, the whole thing. This is a really good piece of vinyl for this record. It's great. Let's see, the 4th album from Third Eye Blind. It's called Ursa Major. Came out in 2009. After a lineup shift between Out of the Vein and this, I enjoy it. It's a little rough around the edges, I guess I would say. But there are some great songs on here. Sharp Knife, Bonfire, and this original pressing is on a pretty cool looking piece of wax. It's clear with the black and white, and then kind of like a smoke color, I guess. It's a nice pattern. I think it's pretty cool looking, and it looks cool when it spins on the table. Post-hardcore band Thursday, Common Existence. I remember getting this for pretty cheap, like real cheap. I think from Hot Topic, less than $10, I want to say. And it's a good record. I enjoy Thursday. The only other album that I have is Full Collapse, and we'll get to that eventually. But especially the track Friends in the Armed Forces, I think, is one of their best. And I still have that record. And this is a break-off band from Botch, one of the seminal hardcore bands of the 90s. This band is called Narrows. This is their debut called New Distances. And it's very similar to Botch, same vocalist. Narrows is one of the best live bands I think that I've seen. Okay, so I've already hit the time limit for recording on this camera, and I'm only halfway through this cube. So let's pick it up a little bit. Telephone Tel Aviv, Immolate Yourself, came out just after one member of this duo had passed away. I really enjoyed the songs on this. Opening track, The Birds, I think is just excellent. It's electronic music. I think most of this is using analog synths and stuff like that. It's a really well-crafted electronic music. I've talked about Train Dodge. This is their album I Am Forever in 2009. Not much more to say about it than just another great album from Train Dodge. Probably the best album from Russian Circles, in my opinion. This is Geneva. Came out on Sargent House in 2009, and it's a really good sounding album. And the vinyl presentation, I think, is pretty great. I believe this is on 45 RPM. Russian Circles is another offshoot of Botch. Bass player, excellent bass player, Brian Cook. And yeah, Russian Circles is just this great post-rock, heavy post-rock band, and that's one of their best. Glad I got that one on wax. So this is a special one. This is a band called Gifts from Enola, and the album's called From Fathoms. And this came out in 2009, and this is special because it actually has my name on it. Let's see if I can get close enough and then punch in there. It says additional vocals on track number 5 by Jay Sakong and Dan Fury. So I met these guys on the road when I was out with a band called Caddisfly. This was sometime in 2006, I believe. And it's just one of those local bands that we hooked up with when we were out in Virginia. And we thought they were great. Had a lot of fun with them. We spent the evening with them. Just had a blast. We were up till early morning, just hanging out and having a good time. And primarily they are an instrumental post-rock band. And I just made the joke that, I wish I could just, if you wanted a singer, I would just love to sing over your music. I think it's great. And then at some point when they were writing this record, they sent me this song and asked if I would use the words that they had written out and find a melody for them. So I did my best, recorded it on my own and sent it to them, and they mixed it into their song. So after the drums come in on the track Resurface is my vocals, and they're kind of mixed down into the song. They're not like a traditional vocal mix. It's all kind of blended together. And this came out on the Myelin Sheath, which is a great vinyl centric label. So they did a good job with the pressing. And this is the tour pressing. I forget what they call it, kind of like a sea foam mix or something. Mix of green and blue shades. Pretty sweet looking. Definitely matches the aesthetic of the cover. So yeah, that'll definitely always be a special one in the collection. They, not too long ago, had it fully remixed and reissued. And it definitely, I mean, this is their second album. You know, it was all very low budget DIY independent recording. But whoever they got to remix it did a great job of kind of pumping it up. Both versions might still be available on digital platforms, and then there's a new vinyl pressing with that mix. But yeah, there you go. Gifts from Enola from Fathoms. Very special. And on to an associated band, very similar, Moving Mountains. This EP is called Forward, which came out in 2009. And Lights and Shapes is probably one of their best-known songs. I really enjoy these guys. Another band that just had a great vibe and put out such great music, and then they're not definitively broken up, but have been inactive for quite some time. Perfuse 73, Everything She Touched Turned Ampexian. I tried to collect pretty much everything from Perfuse 73 on vinyl, and as far as I know, I've succeeded, at least with their main output. And this came out on Warp Records. I got another Pelican. This is Ephemeral. It's an EP. Southern Lord. The Mercury Program. I have talked about them, right? Yeah, I must have. J Viking. This came out in 2009. It had been a while since they'd put out a record. And it's a short album, but it is very good. Very interesting post-rock music. I do enjoy John Mayer. This is Battle Studies, 2009. I thought he had some good songs on this one. Heartbreak Warfare, I like. Assassin, had a good vibe. Great cover of Crossroads from Cream. So I talked about NK, short for North Korea. Was it the last video or the one before that? I'm gonna have trouble remembering everything I've showed and talked about already, but NK put out that record. Before that, they put out 2 EPs. They're both on discs. They're called The Basement Tapes, Volume 1 and 2. Some more great music. And to my recollection, they're all mixed on pretty much a random assortment of vinyl colors. This kind of turned into a really dark green, a bit of blue, a bit of purple in it. Not actually all that cool looking, but unique, I guess. And the track Deliver Me from Volume 1 is one of my favorite songs that they did. I think that's great. So this is another VCLT that Stephanie sent me from Canada. It's a split, so 2 EPs, one on each side, from the Nils and Chino. So the Nils, I believe that's called Paisley? Yeah. And Chino, Mala Leche. A couple more Canadian like power pop, post-punk bands. Interesting stuff that I have kept in the collection. And Proto Punk, I believe is what they call this. This is Death for the Whole World to See. A band that was largely unknown until, I want to say about, I guess, 2008, something like that. And there's a great documentary called A Band Called Death that tells their story, which is excellent. And this album is really, really good. And this is a great pressing of it. It was pressed at RTI. It sounds great. There's some really, really cool songs on here. And it's a shame that it took so long for them to have recognition. Another offshoot from Botch. This is These Arms Are Snakes. This is their last record. It's called Tail Swallower and Dove. It's on a white and pink. Brian Cook is also the bass player of this band. Sick bass lines, really great rhythms, interesting vocals. It could push you one way or the other on the vocal side, but great music. And now we've reached one of my favorite albums of all. Definitely one of my, probably just my favorite vinyl record. that I have, and I have several copies of it. So Abel Baker Fox is that band, and I showed at least one copy that I was selling in, I think, the first video in this series, but I still have several more. This one is on yellow vinyl. This was released at their release show. There's 100 copies of those. Nate from the band sent me this one, kind of a highlighter yellow. Very, very cool. First one that I got was this blue and orange swirl. It's 282 of those. This I am lucky enough to have, which Nate Ellis also sent me, which is the test pressing of the album. 15 of those. And there is a letter that Nate sent to me as well. This is just, one of the best things I could have as a test pressing of this album. This is the European pressing, which is on the same blue as the American one that I was selling. And this also came with a CD. So those are the copies that, at least up to now, I'm keeping. I've tried to pare down, especially where I've had multiple copies of things, but I don't know if I can get rid of any more of those. Those are all very, very special to me. I love that record. Lucky to have all of that. Another VCLT from Stephanie in Canada. This is Red Mass. Some more kind of lo-fi, post-punk stuff from Montreal. This note says, resident Montreal weirdos and the nicest people you'll ever meet. It's Red Mass. Again, from Stephanie in Canada. Another Russian Circles. This is Station. This one, I believe, is on green vinyl. It kind of matches that kind of mint green look. This is a reissue of this album. I used to have an original, the cover was kind of tinted gold and the vinyl was gold. It even had a splatter to it, but I sold that and then got this reissue. Another great Russian Circles album. Antidotes by Foals. I think this is their first album. It came out on Sub Pop. This one I remember thinking was a little rough around the edges as well. Total Life Forever is definitely more refined and well shaped, but there's still a lot of great material on this album. Mogwai, The Hawk is Howling, is a really nice pressing. This one's 2008. It's a gatefold. I love Mogwai. I think this is the only Death Cab for Cutie that I have. I've had at least one more, but this is Narrow Stairs. I just think it's one of their better albums for sure. I bought it on vinyl when I saw it for a decent price, and I still have it. Acoustics by Minus the Bear. This is a EP of some of their songs rendered in acoustic arrangements, pressed on a blue and kind of cream colorway. I thought the songs that they transposed for this release worked really, really well. It was harder to find for a while, even though there was 5,000 pressed on this first pressing, but I do believe it's been reissued. All right, almost done. We got One Day as a Lion. This is so far the one and only release from this band, featuring Zach De La Rocha of Rage Against the Machine, and holy shit, this record is awesome. It's simple in its production. Drums, vocals, and a overdriven synth bass, I believe, is all that's being played. But what they do with just that is phenomenal. This is a really good sounding pressing of it as well, and the value of it has increased quite a bit in the last few years. And I don't believe they've ever reissued it, although they should, and I would love to hear more from One Day as a Lion. This is a really, really cool EP. There's only, 5 songs? Klimt 1918, a really great rock band out of Italy. And they put out this record called In Case We Never Meet Again, soundtrack for the cassette generation. And this label called Prophecy in Germany put it out on a red vinyl with this alternate cover. And this is just a band that I found through a friend who was just more dutiful in finding new music online than I am or have been for a long time. And he found this band, and I heard it. I thought it was fantastic. It kind of reminded me of a band I like called Dredge, with their atmospheric guitar lines and stuff. They're still together, and they've put out some music since this. I think this is a great album. The vinyl pressing is okay. It's not sonically amazing, but it's a really cool piece to have. It's a very small band, but they're really excellent, and I would encourage you to check them out. Klimt, as in the artist, 1918. And lastly, for this video, Sigaros, their album from 2008 that I will not even attempt to pronounce because it's a big mouthful, but it's really good, top to bottom. Get it? Just really excellent. And I had a pressing in this for a long time that wasn't that great. Pressed it United, sold that, got a newer issue of it, which is a lot better. So there you go. Another video in the complete vinyl collection series. I'm gonna do at least one more today. Gonna try to do it a little more quickly because this is definitely gonna be a chore to produce. So I will talk to you again fairly soon with another entry. And until then, thanks for watching. Take care. Enjoy your music.